Tensions erupted in the South China Sea as a Philippine vessel, the BRP Datu Gumbay Piang, collided with Chinese Coast Guard ships near Scarborough Shoal, a strategic area claimed by both nations. The incident unfolded in waters that have long been a source of friction, with both sides asserting their rights over the same territory. Scarborough Shoal, in particular, is a flashpoint due to its proximity to vital shipping lanes and its rich fishing grounds. The Philippine ship was on a mission to support local fishermen, providing them with protection and supplies, when it was suddenly surrounded by multiple Chinese vessels, including a Navy warship. The presence of so many Chinese ships created a tense standoff, raising fears of escalation and putting the livelihoods of Filipino fishermen at risk. The resulting collision has become a major diplomatic flashpoint, with both sides accusing each other of aggression and reckless behavior. The damage to the ships is a stark symbol of the broader conflict, and both governments have issued strong statements condemning the other's actions. This incident highlights the high stakes in the South China Sea, a region vital for global trade and rich in resources. Over a third of the world's maritime trade passes through these waters, making stability here crucial, not just for the region, but for the entire world economy. For the Philippines, it's a violation of sovereignty and a threat to their citizens' safety. For China, it's seen as a defense of historical territory and national pride. Both sides are unwilling to back down, fueling a cycle of confrontation. The world is watching as national pride, economic interests, and geopolitics collide in these contested waters. International observers and neighboring countries are calling for restraint, fearing that any miscalculation could spark a wider conflict. The latest clash is a stark reminder of the real dangers faced by those navigating this volatile region. For the sailors and fishermen on the front lines, every journey carries the risk of confrontation, underscoring the urgent need for dialogue and peaceful resolution. China and the Philippines offer sharply different accounts of the Scarborough Shoal incident. Beijing claims the Philippine ship acted provocatively, ramming a Chinese vessel during lawful patrols. Manila insists its ship was targeted and struck while assisting fishermen, blaming China for aggressive blocking maneuvers. Both sides release statements and selective video, fueling a confusing information war. Each nation frames itself as the victim to rally international support and justify future actions. The truth remains contested, deepening mistrust and complicating any peaceful resolution. The war of words continues, with significant geopolitical stakes for both countries. Tensions in the South China Sea reached a boiling point when Chinese Coast Guard ships unleashed powerful, high-pressure water cannons on a Philippine vessel. The sudden, forceful jets of water sent shockwaves through the crew, marking a dramatic escalation in the ongoing maritime standoff. The attack didn't just damage vital equipment, it also left at least one Filipino sailor injured, transforming what had been a tense standoff into a dangerous and volatile confrontation at sea. The crew, shaken and wary, scrambled to assess the damage and tend to their wounded. China insists that using water cannons is a non-lethal law enforcement measure, but the Philippines and its officials have strongly condemned the act, calling it a reckless and dangerous form of aggression that puts lives at risk. Increasingly, water cannons have become China's preferred tool, delivering a forceful message that stops just short of open warfare, but still inflicts real harm and intimidation. For Manila and its allies, these actions are seen not as legitimate law enforcement, but as deliberate intimidation and coercion on the high seas. The incident highlights the stark power imbalance in the region, and demonstrates China's willingness to use forceful tactics to assert its control over disputed waters, regardless of the risks. Filipino crews now face very real dangers simply by operating in waters their nation claims as its own, knowing that every patrol could turn perilous. The message from Beijing is unmistakable. China is fully prepared to enforce its sweeping maritime claims, even if it means destabilizing the region and risking further escalation. The incident drew swift condemnation from the international community, especially Western allies of the Philippines. The U.S. reaffirmed its support, invoking the Mutual Defense Treaty and criticizing China's provocative actions. The UK, Australia, and Canada echoed these concerns, forming a united front against Beijing. Manila relies on this support to counterbalance China's power. China, meanwhile, accuses the West of meddling and insists the dispute should be resolved bilaterally. The involvement of global powers transforms a local clash into a broader contest for influence in Asia. Scarborough Shoal has become a stage for great power rivalry, with far-reaching consequences. The world's response will shape the future balance of power in the region. At its core, the recent collision is not just an isolated incident, but a symptom of the long-standing and unresolved South China Sea dispute. This region has become a flashpoint where competing national interests and historical grievances collide on the open water. Both China and the Philippines claim Scarborough Shoal, a small but strategically vital reef. In 2016, an international tribunal in The Hague rejected China's sweeping claims, ruling in favor of the Philippines, a decision Beijing continues to ignore, deepening the rift. China's recent move to declare part of the shoal a nature reserve is seen by Manila as a calculated tactic to solidify its control and assert sovereignty, despite international objections. Chinese ships now maintain a near-constant blockade, keeping Filipino fishermen out and escalating tensions. This blockade disrupts livelihoods and raises the risk of direct confrontation at sea. The standoff is about more than territory or fishing rights. It's a test of international law, the strength of global agreements, and the principle of freedom of navigation in one of the world's busiest waterways. If force prevails over legal rulings, it sets a dangerous global precedent, encouraging other nations to ignore international norms and settle disputes through might. The Scarborough Shoal dispute is about more than a patch of sea. It's about whether rules or raw power will ultimately shape the future world order and the way nations resolve conflicts, the future stability of the Indo-Pacific, and perhaps the credibility of international law itself, hangs in the balance as the world watches what happens next.